Hey everybody, it's Robert, the Asian Film Junkie. It's another week, so it's another review. This time it is Rurouni Kenshin or Samurai X Reflection, the second OVA from the ADV Films collection. Again, like last week, we're doing the director's cut. This is the disc 5. We're doing the director's cut only and not the normal run-of-the-mill. I mean, let's get started. No reason to dilly-dally. So the Eternal Timeline, it just takes place after an undisclosed amount of time after the end of the manga. This is based off of the manga and not the anime per se, and we'll get into that a little bit later. So the overall plot is that Kenshin he's been wandering around, and eventually he gets recruited by the Japanese government to go help as a general in the first Sino-Japanese War, and he leaves Kaoru and his son Kenji. And before he leaves, Kenshin's sick. He has some kind of a sickness. We don't know what it is. It kind of looks like leprosy, but it's not that. I've looked it up, done some research on it. Even the writer said that they don't know what it is, and it's not important that we know what it is. In the manga, Megumi says that if he keeps using Hiten Mitsurugi, that he's going to die. His body's going to break down, that it's too much stress on his body, especially using the Amakakuri Ryo no Harameki. And so that is I guess what they're playing off of. So after he gets this disease and it's on his arms and on his chest, Kaoru's like, hey, I want to share this pain with you. So they have sex, and whatever this disease is sexually transmitted as well. So I don't know what it is. If it's Hiten Mitsurugi being too stressful on his body, I don't understand how that could be passed to Kaoru through sex. If it's leprosy, that would work, because it's based on touch, I believe. So whatever it is, it magically goes to Kaoru, and she gets it too. It's, according to Megumi in Reflections, it's unknown, unstoppable, and it's 100% deadly. So, but at some point after this, the government comes and says, hey, we need you to help us in China. We don't want you to fight anybody. We just want you to lead the troops. We need someone that the men can get behind, someone who can rally the troops, someone who can inspire inspiration. So Kenshin, of course, says, yeah, I'll go. And it's pissed off Kenji, because his entire life, Kenshin's just been off doing things. Back and forth doing things. And Kenji's really bitter for this. So at some point in his life, from the look of him, I'd say he's around 13 to 14, somewhere in that range. But he's off in Kyoto, and he is with Siko Hijiro, and he's learning Hiten Mitsurugi. So Kaoru's by herself. Of course, Yahiko's there, and at this point, Sanosuke has left. He's off doing his thing. Megumi's left. She's off doing her thing, and Yahiko has now the Sakamoto, the sword that Kenshin possessed. Kenshin gave it to him as a coming-of-age present, and it's actually in the end of this manga. This is the 28th volume. You can see it where he gives it to him, and Yahiko's very surprised. But so he's got the sword at this point, and he goes, and Kaoru passes out from this disease, which is killing her. And as she's passed out, she begins remembering. It's probably a good thing to OVA is called Remembrance, but it's actually called Reflection, but I believe the Japanese translates to Remembrance or something. It was just translated to Reflection. But whatever the case, she starts to remember, and it starts from the beginning, from the first time they met, all the way to the end. But it's severely weird. It's not accurate to the manga. It's not accurate to the anime. It's accurate to its own self. And part of that you can blame on the fact that it's Kaoru remembering things. So maybe she misremembers it. But then, like, she's remembering Shishio, and she wasn't there for that fight. So how can she remember Shishio? So it's kind of weird. Because in some places she's remembering things that make sense for her to remember, and other things she's remembering that doesn't make any sense. And one of the things that I'll get to as a pro for this series is that we finally get to see the Jinshu arc, and for that she only remembers the parts that she's privy to. She gets kidnapped in the Jinshu arc, so she only remembers the parts where Inisi has her on the island. Makes perfect sense. So it's weird how this happens. But anyway, she passes out and does her thing, and at the end of it, Kenshin finally comes back. And the whole background of this is that Kenshin should have been back a long time before, and he's not. So everyone thinks he's dead, but she's like, oh no, he's not dead. But eventually Kenshin he makes it back with the help of Sanosuke, and they reach each other underneath this cherry blossom tree, and they die, or he dies. She's going to die, but he dies, and it's a very moving scene, and I'll touch on it a little bit more later in this video. But that's just the overview of it. And I mean, that's pretty much it. I mean, there's not much to it. It's about an hour and a half, I believe. 98 minutes, an hour and a half. And it's okay. It's not the greatest thing in the world. I much prefer Trust and Betrayal over it. But let's get into some pros and cons. You know, the definite pros is it's beautiful, it's gorgeous. I mean, it's just beautifully animated. There's nothing that I can say really bad about the animation. It's beautiful. The English voice acting it's decent for the most part. It's pretty good. And the last pro is that we finally get to see the Jinshu arc. We get to see Inisi on screen in all of his glory, and he is as scary and as freaky looking as you would imagine coming out of the manga. I mean, it's actually a very good rendition of him over. The cons are the pronunciation of some words, and this is at least in the English. Some of the words are like butchered. I don't think they could pronounce Tokugawa to save their life, but that's me. Maybe it doesn't bother someone else, but it bothered me. Other than that, the story's super dumbed down. You don't get half of what happens in the series, and like I said, that can be attributed to the fact that it's Kaoru and her memory, but give me someone else's memory if that's all we're going to get, because it's not good enough. You don't get nearly enough to make it a powerful scene. The characters aren't strong. The characters are pretty much just there, and it's too like gloomy. I mean, it's just dark and it's sad, and there's none of the upbeatness that there was in the manga, and even with Trust and Betrayal, yeah, it was dark, but there was really good character development there, and there was a story that made us care about it. And I mean, this is just a rehashing of the story that we already know, but it's not even done in a way that we can care about it. It's just there. So I'm not crazy about it. And the last con is that even though there's the Genshu arc, there's not enough of it. Yes, you see Anisi. Yes, you see Kaoru's side of it. But there's so much more, and there's so much to be said about how Kenshin reacts to Kaoru's kidnapping. In the manga, it's not that she's been kidnapped. Kenshin thinks she's dead. Kenshin believes that Anisi killed her. So he goes insane. Like, he chains his sword up and goes insane. And is very strong. And you don't get any of that in Reflection. You just get her and the island and a little bit of her talking with Anisi and a little bit of just that reaction there. So you don't get any of Anisi. You don't get any of his motivation. You get some of it, and you know why he's doing what he's doing, but you don't understand everything about it. Anisi's kind of crazy in the manga. And so you get that, but you don't get it, and it's just not good enough for me and for a lot of people, including Nobuhiro Watsuki, who said that it was too depressing. He didn't like the ending that the writers gave him, and so that's where we stand. It's good. It's not great. It's beautifully animated, and it's worth watching just for the animation. I'd give it probably probably a 7 out of 10. It's passable. It's beautifully animated, like I said, so it's worth it just for that. But don't watch it for the story, because there's not much there. I mean, it's an hour and a half. You would think that there's a lot there, but it's nothing that we haven't seen before. And the scenes that we have seen before are so drastically changed that it's completely different. And there's stuff in there that I understand why they put it in there. There's interactions between Kenshin and Kaoru. In between things, and I understand that they can't show everything in the manga or in the anime, so I'm cool with that. That's not my issue. It's the drastic changes to the rest of the story that I don't like. But enough of that. I'm going to do something different here, because this takes place after the manga. I'm going to do an ending versus ending, and if I was much better at editing, I would do like this epic title card and like some music. So just imagine an epic title card and some like badass music right here. Okay, but anyway, so we'll start with Reflection, because that's just what we're talking about. At the end of the Reflection, Kenshin dies, and at some point after, Kaoru dies. It's going to happen. The credits roll after Kenshin dies, but we know that the disease that Kaoru has will kill her at some point, and it's going to come sooner rather than later. So it's quite possible that she dies maybe right after the credits roll. We don't know, but we do know that she dies. So it's very sad. And there's a post-credit scene that I didn't know about the first time I watched it. But I watched it again on Sunday and saw the post-credit scene. And Kenji gets a woman, so that's cool, but not enough to really deal with the rest of that. So, I mean, that's how this ends. Pretty much Kenshin dies, Kaoru dies, everybody we know and love dies. But in the manga, it ends on a very different tone. On the manga, both Kenshin and Kaoru were still alive. There's a hopeful ending. And it ends on a very happy note. It ends on the note of Kenshin, Kaoru, and Kenji all together. And it's just, I much prefer this ending, the ending of the manga. And some final thoughts on this before I leave you. Look, the ending to the OVA is sad. It is. It's very sad. And I admit openly, the first time I watched Reflections, I cried like a bitch. I mean, I cried. It was sad. It's still sad. I didn't cry the second time, so you can't call me like a super fanboy. I mean, I guess you still could, but whatever. it's sad, and the sadness comes from the fact that when Kenshin dies, the scar completely disappears, and we know that the scar is directly related to his atonement for the people that he killed. So when the scar disappears, he has received the ultimate redemption, and that all of the souls of those who died have forgiven him for killing them. And this is alluded to in Trust and Betrayal, the first OVA, because it's talking about how a wound inflicted in grudge won't heal. So it's finally healed, and it's a really beautiful scene. And the other thing that makes it really sad is before Kenshin leaves, Kenshin says to Kaoru, "This is it. I'm not going anywhere anymore after this mission. Right here, I'm never leaving again. And because I'm never leaving, I don't need my swordsman name anymore. And my swordsman name is Kenshin. So when I get back, I want you to call me by my real name, the name my parents gave me, Shinta." So he finally gets back, he falls in her arms, and she's calling him Shinta. She never says Kenshin again from that point on. And to be fair, it's only about 2 minutes before Kenshin dies. So, and it's very sad. But, like I said, I much prefer the ending in the manga in volume 28 here. It just ends on it just seems like there's going to be a life of happiness for Kenshin. It really seems to me when I read it that Kenshin's done. Like he's not going to go out again. He's tired of the weariness. He's tired of all the fighting. And he knows, Megumi tells him, that if he continues to fight, he's going to die. And I think, and this might be just me thinking this way, and if it is, that's okay. It's left open. I think you can interpret the way that this ends any number of ways. But to me, it just seems like Kenshin would he gives his sword to Yahiko, and he's done. I don't think he would pick up a sword again. And I don't think he would leave Kenji, and I don't think he would leave Kaoru ever again. And that's how I feel about this movie. It's good. It's not amazing. It's not on the level of the series. It's not on the level of Trust and Betrayal. It is what it is. Watch it for its art because it's beautiful. But don't expect a deep story because it's not there. So, that's my review for Samurai X Reflection. Next, I'm going to do Samurai X, the motion picture, which I've never watched, so this will be a first time watching review. And they'll come next week. One last thing before I leave you is I'm really excited about this. I picked up Akira. I've never watched it, and I've heard it's like the cornerstone of anime, and one of the big reasons anime is so huge over here in the States. But I picked it up at Walmart for $5, so I was really excited about it, and I was like, oh man, that'd be perfect for my channel. I can get it and watch it and review it, and so yeah, really excited about this. But that's it. So I will see y'all next week. I love you, stay awesome, and God bless.